No worries.
Hello, welcome to episode 4 of our OC Roundtable. Today I'm joined by 3 new panelists. So without further ado, I will let them introduce themselves and give them a little touch on their coaching background. So if you want to step up first and step to the plate, feel free to do so, gents. But welcome to the show and do about yourselves.
Thanks, David. I'll jump in first.
Cool.
Nick Tilbury, most recently with the Hertfordshire Cheetahs, but been involved in the game since 1985, which is why I'm a Bears fan, and I've been suffering ever since. I guess why am I an offensive coach if I'm a Bears fan? It's definitely a question I'm asking myself this year. But yeah, I've been involved in brickball for quite a long time. Player mainly, and then coach. I started to transition from player to player coach in about 2012, and I've been on that sort of journey from player coach to player coach to a full-time coach. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
You want to go, coach, or?
Yeah, I'll jump in. My name's Patrick McAleer. I'm the OC at Oxford Lancers, the University of Oxford University team. Played, like many people these days, getting into coaching. Uni ball here in the UK. Played for Plymouth Blitz for sort of my time at uni. Got involved in coaching there, and now with Oxford Lancers as OC and third year there. Had to think, but so thanks for having me on.
Cool. Jay Alexander. I've been happily retired for the past few years, to be honest. Most recently, I was OC at the Samuel Steelers women's team. Prior to that, I was the head coach at the Samuel Steelers adult team. And over the years, I've been fortunate enough to be involved with programs like Loughborough University, Birmingham University, and was also one of the founding members of the Tamworth Phoenix, starting in 2007. So, been about a little bit. Started playing the game in 1997, and been around it ever since. Really, even I'm not active at the moment. I'm still involved with many people in the game. So it was great to be invited on. Nice to come and chat football with guys that are still keeping it going today. Keeps me around a little bit. Keeps me feeling a bit younger.
Right, we'll start off with our questions. I know you haven't had a sneak peek at them, even though I'll try and keep them back, but if you ask, I will give it to you. The floor's open. Who wants to take it first? Just go ahead and do it. We'll go in a circle or whatever. But the first question today is: could you describe your pathway into becoming an offensive coordinator? Was it something that you found easy, or was it something that you felt you had to be forced into, or was it something that you was hesitant in doing? How was each of your pathways into becoming an offensive coordinator?
For me, I think it was quite timing. So I personally moved from Plymouth to Oxford. Had been coaching for a few years at Plymouth. Coached with a really good guy there called Stephen Jones, who set up Cardiff Cobras, quite well known in sort of uni ball, who really, I think, challenged me as a coach and got me, rather than just coaching wide receivers, turning up, doing my little bit and going off, really made me think, and actually sort of, really fell in love with being a coach and everything that's going in and on in the background. I then moved to Oxford or near Oxford, pinged a message to the Oxford head coach. He, at the time, had just stepped down. Next thing, I'm in a Facebook chat with the president. And we went for a beer the next week, and they were looking for an OC and a HC. So their defensive coordinator stepped into head coach, and I became the OC. So, was I ready at the time? I would say so, or close to it. But, for me, it was right place, right timing, and having that bit of luck, I suppose.
Awesome.
Cool. For me, yeah, again, I suppose timing did play a part. I had my playing days cut short at the time by an injury, and prior to that, I was coaching university in the winter and playing adult ball in the summer, and I was enjoying that. I was coaching at Loughborough University under Andy Sweeney, and just soaking in as much as I could from him. Was involved in the GB student setup as well with Tony Attlesmith and Paul Sherratt, and again, you know, great folks to be learning from. And that was, I was satisfied, but I think that as soon as I got injured and my days of competing, as I saw it, were taken, like suddenly then just coaching, it didn't really fill that void, and I felt like I still wanted to compete on game day. And as much as I did enjoy coaching, and you take new guys in and teach them the game and show them how to play the game, I still kind of felt on Sundays that, you know, it was more a case of, okay, coach, there you go, like, you know, and the OC goes and does the competing, and I just had to scratch that competitive itch. And my friends, the Winter Brothers and Ryan Baker, they just set up.
Let's break it up, coach.
Yeah, I was getting that as well.
I was checking it wasn't me.
Yeah, I was looking at your expressions to see if it was.
No, it's
just
definitely
me.
different. Are you there, coach? Maybe he's frozen. If you want to step forward, Nick, we'll try and get coach back.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, mine was my journey was a little bit different, I guess. So I've been playing for quite a few years, and I considered coaching, but I knew that my playing career was going to be a lot shorter potentially than my coaching career. So I was tempted, but I resisted, and I carried on playing for as long as I possibly could.
Yes.
Into my sort of mid to late 30s, and then I retired. And then when I turned 40, I got the itch to come back again to play. It just so happened that a friend of mine was setting up the Peterborough Saxons at that time, and he got in touch with me asking me to go back and play. So I said I would, but being 40, I said, you know, this is going to be a short-term gig. So at that point, I came back with the intention of playing one season, but sort of grooming my replacement and then going into coaching straight afterwards. So I did do that, and I spent the next. So I played that one season. I spent the next couple of seasons in a player-coach role.
Yep.
And I don't know what the guys think, but I think the move from quarterback, which I played, into OC is maybe a smoother path, because you know you're the OC on the pitch if you're QB, right? So it's definitely and you form closer relationships in a more sort of cerebral part with your offensive coordinator if you're quarterback. So I went from one season of playing to 2 seasons of player coach to, right, this is it. I now need to go into full-time coaching. If I could, my own personal experience of being a player coach wasn't great. I felt like I was half as good at 2 positions rather than being good at one, if you understand my meaning. I wasn't as good at OC as I could have been if I focused on it, and I wasn't as good at QB as I could have been if I focused on it. So I wouldn't really advise doing it the way I did it, but it was needs of the teams that I was on at the time. But so it's full-time OC for me now.
Before I go back to Jay, Jay finished off his story, and then he's wearing his internet up. What year were you QB at Peterborough, coach? What year were you QB at Peterborough?
2012 till about 2015.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he played against you in 14. I'm pretty sure Jay wasn't there because he was coaching live, but I'm pretty sure my first ever coaching game was against the Saxons when we joined the Steelers.
We played you in the final. I can't remember what the year was. It
that was 15.
That was 2015.
15 was it? Right. Yeah, we had a pretty good team that year, but 2012 we made the final and lost in overtime. We were really gutted. But when we played you in 2015, we all kind of looked at each other and said they were the better team.
Yeah, but you know what?
Fair result.
About 15. If you look at 15, this is going completely off track now. If you look at 15, look how good Leicester were, look how good you were, and look how good we were. All those 3 teams are probably the best 3 teams in that whole of Division 2. And you know, if you look at your own story, you went away twice. One to Scotland, I think you won to Manchester, and beat them both. So you were no slouches, and we knew that from the 2 games we played with you. But yeah. Jay, back to yourself, mate. You were halfway.
Yeah, I thought you cut me off. I was like, oh, crikey, wasn't that boring already, was it?
Oh no, you just froze, dude. I didn't want to say, Jay, you're breaking up but it went anyway.
Well, no. Anyway, we'll skip all that. But basically, as I said, we were setting up the adult team. We were moving from transitioning. We've got a few of our lads that were to step up from youth to adult, and we thought about setting up an adult team for those guys to transition and stay and play their football in Tamworth. Those guys were busy. They'd set the youth team up. That was their baby. That was their passion project, and they wanted to stay with that. So at the time, I was the only guy that was able to full-time concentrate on the adult team. So I was almost like the de facto head coach at an OC, really. We did try and recruit and couldn't find folks, and I would have been happy to defer and learn, but kind of got thrown at the deep end. And I figured, if there's a way to learn, it's probably starting out with an affiliate team with a lot of young players, and we'll all learn that role together. So that's how that started for me. I got in from there. I'd worked my way through the ranks at Loughborough, and it was doing all but calling the players at Loughborough as a coach there. So it was just the next step, and it just so happened to come at a new team.
Good. What I do like about it, what I'm finding about all the answers so far from the different court talks I have is everybody's pathway is different, but sometimes being thrown into the deep end, just like Neil yesterday, being thrown into the deep end can be the best thing for you ever. And sometimes having that guy and having that pathway put there for you is also the best thing ever. I think it's like a sink or swim mentality, right? I think it's whatever you're given, it's that sink or swim mentality. And I think people who want it badly the most, they normally react to it the best. That's my finish and what the things I've gathered so far. Question 2. Now, you don't have to tell me exactly what you're running if it's a secret. I'm not, people like to keep this close to the chest. But the question that I do want to ask, right, is because people always ask these kind of questions, is whatever offense you're running, how did you settle on it? How did you decide to run that style of offense? What made you do it? So, were you playing in it? Were you something you just like to see? What's the goals behind the stuff?
I can tell that if you want. I'm not particularly wedded to any type of offence. I took over a team. So the process I went through is, how's this team done? How is the offence this team is running? How have they done? What's the returning player base likely to be like? And the answer to all those questions was the offence actually was doing pretty well. And most of the player base was going to return. So my sort of thought pattern was, do I want to have all 30 offensive players learn something new, or shall I learn something new? And I quickly concluded that actually I needed to adapt to them. So my approach was then look at what worked well. There were some plays in the playbook that just weren't used at all, so they came out. There were some plays in the playbook that just didn't work. They came out, and then I added in the things that I felt could help that offense, and that those players could actually were capable of learning. So I didn't come with a system that I said, right, this is my playbook, and you're all going to learn it, and this is what I think we should do. It was a sort of pragmatic approach of taking what worked well, getting rid of what didn't work well, and augmenting it with what I thought those players were capable of learning and implementing on the field.
Did you find that the players that you put into that playbook when you took something back, were they the players that you were running when you were playing the game? So like you leaned on the stuff that you actually ran when you put the new stuff in?
Not necessarily. No, they were new. So if I give some context here, it was a bunch formation and a bunch of plays out of bunch and bunch concepts, which wasn't something I did as a player at all. But it's something I'd seen done quite successfully. I guess being a former quarterback, I've always got a passing bent, always got a passing bias, I guess. So that's what I came in with and built off.
Cool. For me, it was always about I loved the spread option. I always did, just from being able to, being lucky enough to play in it at Birmingham University under Tony and Wayne and Coops. It was great. It was new. Prior to that, I was stuck in I formation, and mostly a fullback that never saw the football, sometimes a tight end that was just an extra offensive lineman. Occasionally people would let me carry the ball, and going into that into a single back offense where it was all spread out, and particularly as well in the winter in college, teams weren't used to it, they hadn't seen it. Birmingham had been an I-form offense the year before I got there, and had so much fun with it. It was great, and that really piqued my interest, and I wanted to learn more and more about it because I wanted to, fit the system a little bit better and try and become a little bit better of a player. And it was either learn more about the system or get in the gym, and I wasn't doing that bit, so I had to understand how the system worked a little bit more. So that was always my passion, and bits and pieces have come and gone. I was open-minded. I think, when we started at the Knicks, we were saying, if you get fullback and tight end types, then you've got to look at running, running a power running offense, but you just wait and see what you recruit and see what you get. And always been fortunate enough, I think, in the places I've been to, you have the bodies that fit some form of spread option. Depending, things might vary. You might have a great tight end type, and if we've got that, love to use them. You might have quality enough backs where you'll run it from a pro and put a wrinkle in it there, and that's been fun too. But by and large, it's been four wide single back, and if you've got a quarterback that can run a little bit as well to run that zone read, it's been that's been the thing for me. And that's how I settled on it, was from playing in it and loving it. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I played wide receiver in a university team that didn't really pass the ball. So, I think a little bit like Jay said there, wanted to be able to pass. When I started coaching at Plymouth, we had a pretty good QB and some top wide receivers, a couple of guys who went and played abroad. So we're like, okay, we need to get these guys to the ball, and then I think from going down the football wormhole of on looking at YouTube videos online, sort of building out the playbook, utilizing sort of other coaches out there, and sort of learning what you do like, what you don't like, and sort of mixing and matching and sort of building your scheme and system from there, I think. And then obviously utilizing the guys that you've got, and trying to make sure they've got the ball. So I think it's sort of a bit of everything on that in terms of how I got there, I'd say. But first of all, want to be able to pass. That's what I think I like, and at this level, it's hard to sort of be able to stop the pass if you can do it, I think.
Yeah. Love it. So you got a former quarterback and a former wide receiver that stuck to what they knew. And here's me as a running back, and I sold my guys out royally, man. As soon as I got to be OC, it's like, no, we're throwing the ball. And you, a running back, surely you want to run the ball? No, man, chuck the ball. Let's throw the ball. Yeah, great.
All screens, there you go, coach.
Yeah,
it's an important point Jay makes, actually, though. I was thinking about this earlier. Is you've got to coach something that you're going to enjoy, right? It's got to be enjoyable to you. If you,
I think there's no point trying to coach a wing T scheme if you don't know anything about wing T. I think you've got to want to do it, but you've got to be able to put across to people that what you're doing, I suppose.
Yeah,
agreed.
Okay, question 3. One of the hot topics that when you talk as groups of coaches, it's always like what software you're using and stuff. So when it comes to your playbook creation, what do you feel like is the best method for creating a playbook? And if you are still, I know Jay's not coaching right now, but it's not far removed. So when you are creating a playbook, what method do you use when you're creating it? And remember, we're trying to give feedback and information to a young guy who's just starting his journey and may not have that experience like, I'll just go on huddle and draw it up. What are the ways that we can get them going straight away?
I think we sort of touched upon it there a little bit in terms of, okay, who do we have first of all? Is it chicken or the egg in terms of, okay, to create a playbook that you 100% are going to run? Maybe you don't end up with the guys, especially at uni ball where you have that turnover, or do you then wait to see who you get and then create a playbook, which takes a while and isn't quick turnaround. So I think personally I go in with an idea of what I want to run, and then I'm going to see who we get that year, and maybe some stuff will come out, maybe some stuff will go in. If you've got we had 3 or 4 good running backs last year, but we were running full spread, one running back. It's like, okay, well, I've got, 3 running backs sat on the bench, which, isn't the most productive use of them. And at the same time, we played in 2 of the big storms last year. So we were like, okay, well, we need to get some 2 back in and get our guys the ball. So I think for me, it's a little bit of both. But I like to have a plan of what I'm going to run and then sort of go from there, I suppose, as a starting point.
You've gone far and beyond the answer there, Coach. I just wanted to know what you used to create a playbook. You've given us a far greater answer than we actually wanted. But
Okay.
it's a bit of insight there. A bit of insight. But I mean, what do you use to create your playbooks? Are you a huddle guy? Are you a
Sorry, I thought you meant like the idea. Oh, I use Huddle, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that's the easiest method for you?
Yeah, okay.
What happens if you change teams or you move on? What happens to your playbook then?
Well, I haven't done that yet. I've got everything saved as PDFs,
Okay.
so
You can keep the stuff.
So I could take everything. I've got like a football notebook as well.
I was an old school PowerPoint guy. Huddle wasn't huge at the time. So yeah, unfortunately, I used to slide. I'm pretty sure any method is better than PowerPoint. But yeah, that was the method that I.
I still use PowerPoint.
Man, I just remember it taking forever, man. Any slide
Just like a long
change.
time.
Yeah, but yeah, that's what I put together.
I think Huddle has some other benefits, doesn't it? Film sharing and practice film, annotation. It's a coaching tool for annotation, etc. So, although unfortunately there's a cost for it, right? That is a bit of a problem for an amateur team, amateur sport. So you've got to be flexible.
Sorry, have any of you guys ever given out paper playbooks?
I've had one
back in the day.
I had one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But the very first one we did at Tamworth was a paper playbook. In fact, no, I got to admit, we ran paper playbooks until 2009. So 7, 8, and 9. Our first 3 years were paper playbooks. Yeah.
How do you feel that transition was from? Because you always hear like people saying, they need it on the phone and stuff. And some people that say, I'd rather have it on paper. What's your guys' feelings about having a paper playbook to a cell phone playbook these days?
Here's an email attachment. Press print.
That's true. That is true.
You want it on paper, print it yourself.
Yeah, I would write a handbook. So we have sort of an offensive handbook that sort of goes into more detail rather than a full playbook, and we sort of have an O-line handbook as well. But otherwise, all the plays itself are on Huddle, and then the descriptions underneath, and I would just print, save it as a PDF, send it to the guys. If they want to print it, they can do it. But
is the handbook an abridged version then? Is that what you're saying?
What, sorry?
Is it an abridged version of the full playbook?
Yeah, I suppose it's not quite a playbook. It's not, it's more in that middle. So you're going through details on splits, alignment, formations, a little bit more context rather than just here's a playbook. Obviously, at uni ball you get guys that I suppose like senior league as well who have no idea of football. So just a little bit more detail, I suppose.
Interesting. Okay.
Next question, because I like to get in depth occasionally, is in-store plans. Now I haven't spoken about this much on this roundtable so far, but I want to touch on it today. So we're in pre-season. During the pre-season, and like for us, pre-season, when we start back in September or whatever it is, we put together our in-store plan. Okay? How do you as coaches break that down, and then in turn, how do you implement it? What's your thought process, and what is your process of getting your stuff out to your guys?
I'll take it if you like, because I spent a lot of time doing this and spreadsheets. I'm a spreadsheet guy, but so the way I broke it down was I had the plays that I wanted to install. Then for each play by positional group, working with the positional coaches, we understood what skills we needed to teach in order to successfully implement that play. Okay, and then we did that for all of the plays in the playbook. So for however many 50 plays, for example, each play per position, there was a skill that was required for that play, and it was kind of hierarchical. Right? So we built on So on first time you implement something, you're teaching every concept, but after that, you're just teaching the new concepts they need to learn. So I break it down that way. So all the skills that need to be taught in association with the positional coaches. That then meant that they could go out and figure out, okay, what drills do I need to run in order to teach that skill? And then we would put together a practice plan based on that. So in week one, we would say, all right, these are the plays we're implementing. Therefore, the positional coaches know what skills they need to teach that week. So from that, what the drills are that they need to run, etc. So when we get to the end of practice and we've got a scrimmage, we should be able to successfully run the plays that we're due to run that week because all the skills have been taught. That might be the first time we've come together as a unit, but each individual unit, group rather, they know what they've got to do in that play. And then bringing everyone together is just a case of putting all those Lego pieces together and seeing if it works. That's the way I approached it. I'm kind of logical thinking guy.
That was very logical, very clinical.
Sorry.
Very clinical that was. Very logical. Anybody else?
Yeah, same. To be honest, we, from where I've been coaching for the last few years, we've used sort of Google Drive training plans. So everybody has access. You can edit your own. Everybody goes in knowing what is the plan for each training session. But also, that is in terms of times. So, we obviously only have limited time per training session on fields, whatever it might be. So to be as productive as possible, we sort of plan that, on a training session per night or Sunday, and then sort of a bigger picture. Then looking through the preseason, saying, okay, well, week one we want to get inside zone in and be able to, like Nick said, at the end of the first two sessions, be able to run 3-4 base plays from that, sort of building in the passing concept as well. But we just found it allows us to be, I think, a little bit more productive and efficient by actually just planning ahead, I think. So
one thing I would add, sorry, because I've done this and I think it's a mistake. If you've got 12 weeks of preseason, I wouldn't come up with a 12-week plan that spreads the install over 12 weeks. So my plan was about 4 weeks, and I'd rerun it 3 times. So that allows me some refinement as I go, but also if players join or miss a session, they still get second and third opportunity to bring it up. So that would be another bit of advice I'd give.
Yeah, we did something similar. As you said, with install it in, you're going to install it in blocks, and a fair chunk of it will be repeated. Like I would say, from block 1 to block 2, you will repeat stuff, but you're also going to add in then these new wrinkles. So you've got your base foundational players that if you could only ever go into a game, say with 4 passes and a couple of runs, what are they going to be? That's the stuff that we're going to put in week 1 through 3. You're going to refine it in week 4. Then you're going to start those blocks again. And you'll rep those, but you're going to add this wrinkle to it. You're going to add that wrinkle to it. This play is going to come in now, and go on and so forth. And also as well, like you said, it's part of building in pre-season that it isn't really just your system that's reliant on the players that you get. There might just be some plays that fit within that system perfectly, but you don't have the guys that can pull it off. So if it's not going to be there and people can't grab it, don't be afraid to bin it. You just move it on and say, right, an adjustment for this year is we're not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. So, yeah, we would have
that level of pragmatism is something I think a lot of coaches miss. I know this play works, and they slavishly stick to it. But if you've not got the players for it, bin it.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you haven't got the players for it. The four was, it worked great, and we got we had a guy over at the Bulls the one year that finally got the 4 wides installed, but then they ended up going to East Kilbride with 2 wide receivers and 3 running backs, and there's no plan B. Well, I don't run anything other than 4 wides. I'm not running I formation. And it's like, well, it might be beneath you. You say, oh, well, stop acting like it's beneath you. It might be the best way you've got a chance to win a game. Instead, you've got 2 guys that are ball carriers that don't run routes and don't catch footballs now lined up in your slot. Well, you have to be flexible to it in all elements of the game. If you're not getting the players that you want, you have to look at your system and fit that around your pieces. You have to, be humble enough to take what a defense is giving you. Everything from that bit in pre-season to how you're going to lay out your system to how you're going to call a game on game day. There has to be that willingness to go, okay, today is not going to be my perfect day. How do I react to it? And the teams that do that are the teams, you know, that are successful.
Good point.
What I was going to say on there is one of the things that you find the deeper you get into the life of an offensive coordinator is that you do realise that your playbook has to fit your personnel. Whereas in year one, you might think these are the 15 best players I've ever seen. But as you said, Jay, you've got 4 running backs from one receiver. Whereas when you're a year 2 or year 3 coach, you're like, well, I've only got two receivers. I need to implement a more running back formation, etc. I think that just comes with experience, right? So it just comes with the longer you do it, the better you seem to get at it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem you get is when you're fortunate enough to have plenty all round. So, you know, after our first couple of years at Tamworth, obviously we were quite successful, and you've got a few guys that were looking to come over that had played the game for a while. You know, you go from being a rookie team to recruiting some vets then. And the problem was, like, you get some guys that may not necessarily fit. You know, you get career fullbacks or stuff, and they come on over, and then it's about trying to accommodate those guys, and you just don't want to go too far the other way. Yes, you want to fit the system to the players, but you still want to hold on to a system. And I remember in 2009 in particular that, you know, we did really, really well for recruitment, had a big push on recruitment and got a few guys in. But I ended up pulling in players that really didn't fit. So we ran, as we know, we ran spread option with the zone read, unless we were going to go with this personnel, and then you were essentially changing your offense. And it didn't. And eventually, you know, you have to just be, you know, if you're fortunate enough to have the personnel to run what you want to run, you do have to say, oh, well, this is who we are, this is our identity, and unfortunately, you know, it might not be a fit for yourself. But yeah, if you don't want to go too far either way, do you really?
Just to recap on this one, when you're installing your plays in pre-season, you put your best plays first, right? Or do you just go alphabetically or by page? Are you a guy that installs your best stuff first? Because as Jay alluded to it a little bit while ago, you want your best stuff in first because that's your bread and butter. Or are you guys that literally go through the playbook page by page? Is there a better way? What way do you think is best?
In my view, I did the hardest stuff first. So for my most recent club, that was what's new. So as I said, we had a base playbook that most of the guys knew. So I went for, well, here's the new stuff, and that's what we're going to do first. But also, if you think about training plans, well, you've got to be cognizant of the fact you're probably going to have a scrimmage at some point against the defense. So there's no point in them planning their goal line defense, for example, and you spend all the time doing spread or pass, or you know. So you need to be able to coordinate and put a training plan together and make sure. So that there are other considerations, but I was fortunate in that it was the offensive plan that was driving the training plan, and then the defensive plan fitted what we were doing around it. So yeah, there are a few things to think about.
I'd put, obviously, you know, base run scheme, which should in theory be your best run scheme. I think in terms of your passes, obviously, you know, deep passes, you know, might in theory be, you know, what you can argue better, more likely to maybe lead to you know, big plays, touchdowns. But you know, in terms of my passing game, I would go quick game first of all. So you know, stick, snag, whatever it is, you know, at least at that point, we have to go into a game and quickly, you know, especially at uni ball and Oxford, we don't start until like end of September, start of October, and we've got a game 1st of November. You know, I want to make sure we can run inside zone and we can run a couple of passes at a bare minimum. You know, so that's sort of where I would go. Yeah.
Similar, you know, you've got your must-haves, you've got your be nice to haves, and then you've got your lucky if you can, you know, if you can have them. If everybody picks everything up real nice, then you can start throwing your stuff in. That's the way we used to do it. It was inside zone, quick screens, you know, inside and out, slants, hitches and seams, and one quick go, and that was that. You know, that they were the if we went week one and couldn't run anything else, what we run, that was what we put in.